Happy Monday morning. I hope you are doing well and all that. I wanted to jump in a little early to get in live and let people jump in. Let me know where you're coming from. Do me a favor, say hello. And if you're in one of my groups, make sure that you uh, let me know who you are, because your name won't come up in the chat feed. But if you're on my page, I can see your name because I'd love to call you out. But hey, I wanted to jump in here this morning. I wanted to start having some conversations around business, about money, around affluence, around wealth building, and the kinds of things that I see going on out there, and some of the challenges that maybe some of you are facing and or have faced. I know for me, I have I've I've gone through a whole lot of things in businesses. I mean, we've had businesses shut down, and we've had to work around some things, finances, and that type of thing. So that's really where I want to go. I'm going to start to do more of these a bit more regularly, and so I want to get some questions. In fact, just so you know, there is going to be a show that I'm rolling out, a regular show that's rolling out called the Affluent Entrepreneur Show. So watch for that. And I'd love to get your questions answered, some things going on in that show. So in this live, one of the topics that I wanted to talk about is this idea of making decisions from your circumstances. So as you jump in, do me a favor, just let me know where you're coming from. Say hello, say good morning. I am here in my studio, in my home office studio in Laguna Beach. The sun is out. It is beautiful. And for those of you that might have been affected by the storms, I hope that you're out of them and feeling good. If you do me a favor, if you're watching in one of my groups, make sure you pop your name in the chat also, because otherwise it just shows Facebook user. And I know that your name isn't Facebook user. There's something to you, and I'd love to chat and call you by name. So here's the thing. When we talk about this idea of making decisions from your circumstances, and this is something that I have conversations with entrepreneurs a lot about. They get in touch with me and they say, if I could just make some more money. Amber is in the house. So hello, Amber, Northern Idaho. So when we talk about making decisions from our circumstances, this is kind of the situation that I think we start to deal with, is that I'll have clients or customers or people that post online and say, if I could just make more money, I'd be okay. They think that if we throw a lot of volume at things, that sometimes that'll solve the problem. But imagine this for a moment. You have a hose, and that hose has a weakness in it. You know, have you seen the hose where it starts to buckle and the edges are the outside skin is starting to fray and it's starting to bubble? And what's going to happen to that hose when you put more pressure on it, when you put more throughput on it, when you start to pump more volume through it? Yeah, it's actually going to bust. It's actually going to pop. So although we think that if we are totally focused on our on what we have going on, and we say, look, all I got to do is increase the volume. All I got to do is push the revenue up. All I got to do is make more money. All I got to do is get more clients. All I got to do is run faster, run harder, run more, run longer, and I'll be okay. Here's the challenge. If you got a leaky hose or you have a weak hose, when you pump more volume in there, it's going to break. It doesn't solve the problems. And now this came up in a recent conversation with a customer mine. It's a new customer. We were just looking at her work, her stuff, and her numbers, and some of the things that were going on. And she made a fair amount of money. I mean, $500,000, 400 and change, just shy of $500,000, which is really, really good. But the bottom line wasn't good. She had a lot of money going out the door that was being wasted. She had a lot of money going out the door that wasn't being that truly wasn't making her money. There was no ROI on it. She had a lot of waste that's going on. And I think in these times, what we need to do is make sure that we don't have the waste. And we'll start to look at this idea of what is important in our businesses and how things are going. I've got a list of different topics that I want to go through on some of these lives as we go through it. But here's the thing to think about. If what we think is the solution to our financial problems is to pump more volume, to get more sales, to get more clients, to get more revenue in, but we have a leaky bucket or we have a weak hose, the problem with that is that's going to create weakness and a breaking point for our business. What we need to do is right the ship, because all you're doing when you start to pump more volume is creating a bigger job for you. Now, let's face it, as entrepreneurs, we jumped into this game of entrepreneurship. Part of the reason that we jumped into the game of entrepreneurship is, first off, to have an impact. I know for me, especially in the journey that I've been on, especially after the last 20, I'm actually going on 24 months. June will be 24 months and since this cancer journey and everything. And so when we look at this idea of what I want to do it's the first thing that we want to do is have an impact. And I know that I'm speaking to the choir here, that those of you that want to have an impact, let me know who it is you want to have an impact by posting it in the chat and that type of thing. But we want to have an impact first. But here's the challenge. One of the challenges is that in order to have the impact that we want, in order to get the word out the way we want, in order to shift and change the lives the way we want at the bigger level, at the higher level, we need to have the income to sustain the impact. Okay? We need to have the income to sustain the impact. And what we think is income is this idea of revenue. Revenue is a vanity metric. It doesn't really matter. The key to sustaining your income and your impact is profits, is to understand that. We'll go deeper into that in a bit. But what I want to make sure you're not doing is that if we're going to build the business, the first thing that we're trying to build is a business of impact. If we're going to build that vehicle, if you will. But the second thing, in order to sustain the impact, is to make sure that we're building a business that has impact but has income. That means that you have stuff left over at the end of the day that you can use to either reinvest back into the business, but more importantly, to reinvest into a machine to sustain you over time. See, here's the thing. I don't want you. I truly do not want you building a job. You could go get a job. That's no fun. What I want you to do is to build a machine that has impact, a machine that makes a difference, a machine that makes income, a machine that distributes profits to you so you can build wealth outside the machine and do those things. Here's what I see happening right now is that when we react to our circumstances, what do I mean by that? All of a sudden you sit back. If I've had this happen before where I had someone come to me and it's a very top guy in the industry and he can get away with it. Some other people, it's not the way I want you to operate. He says, I want to go buy such and such. He says, I'm just going to do a launch to pay for it. Well, that's making decisions from your circumstances. I need to pay my bills, so I'm going to go do a launch to pay the bills. That's short-term thinking. Okay, it may work in the short term, but what you're doing is being reactive to the things that are going on around you. And one of the things that I learned in the martial arts, and I've been in the martial arts, I started in my early teens. So being that I will be 60 this year, it's been a lot of years, lived in Japan and everything. And one of the things that my sensei used to always tell me, my sensei in Japan was a 17th generation samurai bloodline. And he used to say, we need to train our bodies. We need to train our minds. We need to train our souls to respond and not react. When we react to the environment, when we react to the circumstances, we are at the whim and the mercy of the flows of the current and the throes of the battle. But when we respond, we're responding with a strategy, with a plan, with something that is well thought out. And so if you will find yourself making decisions based on reaction, then what's going to happen is that when something new comes up this week, next week, 2 weeks from now, you're going to make a different decision and you have no strategy in place for long-term success. If you truly want to build a business that becomes a machine, that creates cash flow, that builds wealth and gives you the independence you want and deserve, we need to do it by responding effectively and not building a job, but a machine to do it. So here's the thing. I look at circumstances as things that have happened in the past. They're the things that happened in the past. They're like the wake of the boat. If you have ever been on a boat, and I'm guessing many of you have, when you're looking forward, you see this clear, bright blue ocean right off of the Laguna. But if you're on the boat and you look backwards, what do you see? You see a wake. You see the separation of the water and the engine going through it. You see the wake where you have been. But here's the interesting thing. A wake doesn't set the direction of the front end of the boat, the direction of your ship. See, too often we let the wake, the circumstances of our past, the circumstances that we are in, direct how we're going to steer the boat. What's happened in the past has happened in the past. We don't allow that to dictate our decisions. We don't allow that to dictate what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. We simply make sure that we take the lessons from the past, and those that were great lessons, we figure out how to expand on them moving forward. Those that weren't so good lessons, we figure out to make sure that that doesn't happen moving forward. But we don't allow that. So hopefully this is making sense. Hopefully this makes sense in what we're talking about. Learn from the past, don't stay there, and go from there. So I want to give you some takeaways. I do want to give you some very specific action items that I think that we can do to start to build a situation, build a business that becomes a machine. So now you're not building a business that becomes a job. Job, what do they say? Just over broke. And nothing against that, but what we need to do is make sure that what you're building is a affluent vision future, an affluent vision future, so you have that ability to grow. So what does that take for you to do that? And then when I get towards the end, I'll take some questions. I'll see what I can do to help you out and everything. I just want to focus on this idea right now of making decisions from circumstances. How do we avoid making decisions from circumstances? So I'm going to write some things down. So we're going to jump to the iPad. If you know me, you know that I'll always jump to the iPad at some point when I'm teaching. And if you don't, you'll learn that I do. All right. So let me jump to the iPad real quick and let's just talk about this. I think there's 4 things that we need to make sure that we have in place to avoid allowing our circumstances to dictate what we do. And the first thing is really, number one, let's put this in green because we're talking money here. We're going to put it in green. So the first thing is to set outcome goals. Okay. To set outcome goals. And what I mean by this is that when I want to make sure that we have an idea, when we start to set out on a journey, when we start to set out on a path, we need to know the destination first. What are the outcomes? Because if I don't know what the outcomes are, I can't set the metrics to get me there, and I can't set the process to get me there. In fact, I'll do a live on key metrics and the things that you need to be watching in your life, in your wealth, in your business, with your money, and to make sure that you get there. So I'll do another session on that. But what we want to do is set that goal, set the vision and where we want to go, and be really clear about it. Now, if you have a team, if you have an organization, you have a group behind you, what becomes important is those goals aren't some institutional kind of sterile numbers. Yeah, the numbers matter. But people don't get behind numbers. People don't, including you. I mean, you may be looking at this going, I want $1 million business. I got to tell you something, that the $1 million business doesn't matter unless you have the right why behind it. Why do you want $1 million business? What's the vision for that $1 million business? What's the vision for your life? What's the vision of what you're going to create? Because it's the vision that starts to create things that are meaningful, that are manageable, that drive and pull us forward, especially when we start to work with a team. What a team gets behind, what an organization gets behind, what a customer, an audience gets behind is a vision that matters, is a vision that they can navigate towards. It's not just a set of numbers. I know for me that one of my biggest visions right now is that I truly believe that our country is struggling. Our world is struggling in the context of how to become financially independent, how to avoid financial dependence, where we're sitting back and struggling. 78% of people are going from check to check. There is a problem with that. Now, some of it may be an income problem. Some of it may be a behavior problem. Some of it may be, and I don't mean this with any kind of insult at all, maybe an ignorance problem. Because and what I mean ignorance is that we've been trained by the media, by the financial services industry, by upbringing, by observation, by all kinds of others. We've been trained to believe that getting financial independence is hard. I'm here to tell you it's not. Now, is it easy? Maybe not so easy. Is it simple? Certainly, because there's certain principles. And so what we need to do is really start to understand that. And my desire, my mission is to give the tools, the skills, the strategies, and the tactics to everyone that allows them to have financial literacy, financial liberation, to live a life of affluence, because I truly believe that possibility is a birthright. And that's the mission. That's what drives everything we do. So the question is, what's yours? Having, if you will, goals that are outcome goals that are emotionally compelling. Hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully this starts to land for you. You start to look at your organization and the things that you're making, say, am I being pulled by an emotionally compelling vision and goals? Because when I have my outcome goals and I know what those are, I now can set the trajectory to get me there. If I am here and I know that I want to go here, I can then set the path. But if I've never defined this, then I'm just floating along based on circumstances. I might or might not get there. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's number one. Number one is to set out outcome goals. Then number two is really about understand the metrics that matter. Okay. What do I mean by this? Number two is I understand the metrics that matter. What do I mean by this? I mean that, listen, this sounds horrible, especially coming from an accountant like me, but revenues don't matter. Revenues don't matter. The size of your launch doesn't matter. The amount of your sales do not matter unless someone's going to take that soundbite and say, Mel Abraham says that revenues, sales, none of that matters. And then they don't see the unless part. But unless you can convert those sales, those revenues, that income to profits. Okay. So what we need to understand is what are the metrics that are in our business that when we control them can translate to sales that translate to profits. Profits meaning that you're going to have money left over, that it isn't just going back out the door in expenses, that you have something that you can take from. I'll give you for instance. When I had my firm and I was doing a lot of expert witness testimony, one of the metrics that we knew mattered, one of the metrics that we knew would drive project growth revenues, and ultimately profitability was the number of conversations I was having with attorneys. Okay, because they would hire me to do these projects. So instead of me being so worried about my revenues, I said, if I can track, and literally it was lock and step. If I had a drop in the number of conversations with attorneys, literally 90 to 120 days later, we had a drop in revenues, which meant we had a drop in profits. So I knew that if I just managed the conversations with attorneys, then that was the first metric that I managed. The second metric I managed was the profitability, the productivity of my team, of my system that's in it to deliver the programs, because that is where the profitability came from. So the question that you got to ask yourself is, what are the metrics that matter in your business? Is it revenues? Probably not. It's probably something else. Is it downloads? Is it profits in the sense of earnings per lead versus cost per lead? All those types of things. So what we need to understand is that what are the 3 or 4 metrics that, if we get those dialed in, will generate not only business growth, but revenue growth, but more importantly, profit growth. Profit growth, meaning that you have cash flow coming into your pocket, which we can use to create the machine so you don't have a job. So you have something that grows on a regular basis, that you build a machine outside of your business to do that. We'll talk more about that. Hopefully this is making sense with doing that. So that's number 2. Number 2 is making sure that you understand which metrics matter and that you have them in place. And then number 3 relates to it, is to make sure that you create a rhythm of review. Okay. Hey, look, let's face it. It doesn't matter if you have a emotionally compelling vision and outcome goals and all that stuff, and then you figure out the metrics that matter, and you got them all dialed in, and then you put them away and never look at them again. I can't tell you how many times I sit on boards of directors. I've worked with entrepreneurs. I can't tell you how many times they go and they create this wonderfully beautiful business plan, this strategic plan, and it gets up on the shelf, and they never, ever look at it again. They never look at it again. So all that effort, all that work, all that strategizing, everything is by the wayside. So we need to create a rhythm of review. Now, I'm gonna suggest to you that there are going to be things that you're going to want to review weekly. There are things that you're going to want to review monthly. There are things that you're going to want to review quarterly, and there's things that you want to review annually. Like I said, I sit on a board of directors. I just had a board of directors meeting this past week. One of the things that we do immediately at the very beginning is we reconnect to our strategic plan, to our business plan, to our values, to our vision. And we look at things in that context, and we evaluate our metrics in that context. If you don't have a system or a rhythm for looking at your numbers, if you don't have a rhythm for looking at your accounts, looking at your business, looking at your business growth on a regular systematic basis, then all that you do, all that you accomplish, I hate to tell you, is pure coincidence. Your success is on a shaky foundation. See, it's cliche, but it's cliche because it's right. The things that we measure, we can manage, and when we can manage it, we can grow it. So if we're not measuring it and we're not looking at it, we can't manage it. So the third thing is to create a rhythm of review with your team, with yourself. I look at my numbers weekly, certain numbers weekly. I look at my financial numbers on a monthly basis. If I'm in the middle of launch, we're looking at things every couple days because we're needing to make some changes and adjustments and doing that. And then we'll look at our plans on a quarterly basis, our longer term plans on a quarterly basis. What are you doing to make sure that you have your fingers on the pulse of your future, that you have the fingers on the pulse of your journey, that you have the fingers on the pulse of the path that you're taking? Think about this, the metaphor that I was using with the boat and the wake behind. What would happen? What would happen if you're here, holding the wheel of the ship, and then you decide, okay, that's the direction we're going. You hit the throttle, you get going, and you take your hands off the wheel and you let that baby go. Now, hopefully you're in an open ocean, okay? But do you believe for a moment that you'll get to your destination? So why are we doing that in our business? Why are we doing that in our financial life? Why are we doing that with our own money? See, my job isn't to just scale your business. My job is to scale your money. And the way we do that is to make sure that our hands are on the wheel and that we're looking forward towards that. All right. So the number four, let me jump back to the iPad. Number 4 is this. Make wealth building a line item. Oh man, what do I mean by this? So I get involved with folks. A lot of times they're planning for their launches, they're planning for the things that they're doing, and they'll look at it and they say, my Facebook ads are going to be this. Promotions are going to be this. My affiliates are going to be this. And they have all these numbers. But you know what's missing? What's missing is a line item in there for wealth. See, I think we need to plan for our wealth. Financial independence is not a byproduct of happenstance. Financial independence, financial liberation, as I call it, is a byproduct of purposeful execution, okay? Financial independence, financial liberation is a byproduct of purposeful execution. When I work with folks, one of the things that we do is we make wealth building a line item basically in their financial numbers. So if they're going to have $100,000 launch, we take a slice of that. We turn around and look at that and say, of that $100,000, we'll take 10% of that, and that's going to my wealth building account. That's going to build the machine so I don't have a job. That's going to give me my independence. But we don't wait until we do this launch and we do that and go, how much do I have left? How much do I have left? And then I'll take what's left and start to build wealth. No. Wealth has to be a priority. Because wealth is what's going to give you your independence. Wealth is what's going to give you that liberation. Wealth is going to give you the freedom that you actually look for in the business. That's the key to making it happen. Hopefully this is making sense to you. Because those that are wealthy and live a rich lifestyle made wealth building a priority. Let's make it a line item in everything you do. Make sure that you're carving a piece out, that you purposefully have it as a line item to do that. So if you do this right, when you do this right, and you have these things in place, you have number 1, you have outcome goals that are driven by a emotionally compelling vision. Number 2, you have metrics. You understand the metrics that matter, that are going to drive those outcome goals, that are going to drive the wealth, the cash flow, and all that stuff. Number three, okay, you have a rhythm of review where you're looking at those metrics and you're looking at the trajectory, you're looking at the destination, you reconnect to your emotionally compelling vision. You know that you're on track, or you make adjustments to stay on track. And number 4, wealth is a line item. So hopefully that makes sense to you. This is what I want to do. We're going to I'm going to come back. I'm going to answer some questions in a bit here, but if we have any, and know that I've got a couple of more lives that I've got planned that you'll see me for the next little while. But also just want to let you know that I'm also doing a live masterclass. If you want to join me in a live masterclass where we're going to talk about the 5 wealth principles for today's entrepreneurs. It's really about what are today's affluent entrepreneurs doing to build true wealth and lasting freedom. And so it's going to be about a 90-minute training. You know me, that I got a lot of stuff to do. And we're going to talk about the three pillars to it, the 5 principles to make that happen. If you want to join me on that masterclass, just go to melabraham.com/workshop. I'll put it in the first comments below, or if someone who's on could post it down there, it's melabraham.com/workshop. And you'll get to that reg page. I'd love to see you on there. And let's rock and roll. Let's give you the financial independence you've been desiring. Let's give you the machine that gives you the wealth that you deserve. And let's give you what I call financial liberation and affluence. So with that, I'm going to jump in. Let's just see if we've got some questions and if I can help you out. Now I see that I see some people in here as Facebook user, and that means you're watching in one of my groups. Do me a favor, if you're going to post a question, put a big Q, give me your name so I can call you out by name and we can have a conversation and see what happens. I see, can you have 2 communities that you hope to impact? Amber, this is a great question. I actually think you can. The question is, can you impact them at the same time? It depends how far off they are from each other. This is a great question. So one of the things for me, I want to bring financial liberation, financial independence, and all of that to the masses, to, primarily focused with entrepreneurs, but to the masses. But I have a special little sub desire, and that is to help youth and women find their financial power. I look at my son who's 30 years old and 27, and his wife's 27 years old, and they at 30 and 27, they're expecting their first child. I'm going to be a granddad. Look out, world. Another generation of Abrahams. And here they are at 30 and 27 years old. They have 3 homes already, and they have money in the bank. They've got a net worth in the 7 figures. Okay. And it's just from following principles, the principles that I'll be talking about in the masterclass and that type of thing. So I do think it's possible, but if they're very far afield as far as having an impact, then we need to rethink how we're going to do that, or how we're going to dedicate our resources to make that happen. So hopefully that helps, Amber, with that. Vision, own and operate equine therapy ranch for kids with special. Oh, I love this. And I don't know who it is, but an equine therapy ranch for kids that had special needs. I love this. So good. All right. For professional services practice, what do you see as a good target for profit? This is a great question. Depending on the type of professional services practice, I can tell you in my professional services practice, I'm going to change this a bit. Once I moved my office to the house, so I started working from home before we were forced to do it. Before I started doing this in the 90s when I became a single full-time dad and figured out how to do that. And what that did is it reduced my overhead tremendously. There's a couple things in a professional services practice. It's a high margin business. I went back and forth with my partners when I had the CPA firm because they thought we should have a line of credit. And I go, we have no reason to have a line of credit. If we run the business properly, we are selling time. And one of a couple things will cause us to not be able to pay the bills. We have way too much overhead and we've overextended ourselves. Okay. We are not billing enough, which means that we have excess time and someone's not pulling their weight. Or we're not collecting the fees, which means that we don't need the clients. I'm not doing work for people for free. And if they don't want to pay me, they can go find someone else. So in a services business, you've got a high margin business. I believe that in service businesses, I'm going to put this in the category of services and online business. Your margins could be as high as, could be anywhere from 40% to as much as 80%. Okay. And that's what we've seen. It depends. If you're doing an online kind of business, they can be pushing the 60, 70, 80%. If you're doing more traditional, traditional services, professional services business, they're going to be down more at the 40 or 50% margins. And then you have some overhead and that type of stuff off of that. But by and large, if I'm selling someone's time, if I'm paying someone $25 an hour, they should be earning me a minimum of $75 to $100 an hour. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Follow-up question. I want to work and impact mompreneurs to help them work less efficiently and to use this to fund my vision and operate an equine. Okay. So here's the thing. I don't know who this person is because it says Facebook user. I want to work and impact mompreneurs to help them work less efficiently. I'm assuming that more efficiently, but work less time. And use this to fund my vision to own and operate an equine therapy ranch for kids with special needs. This is cool. So let's look at this. I'm gonna draw for a second, and let's look at this. So what we have here is the actual business, and that business is got an impact. Okay, this is impact number one. Okay, this is impact number one. That business is throwing off cash flow. Now, what we said is I want wealth as a line item. In your case, I'm going to add another line item, and that's equine therapy, because I want this to fund this. Because what's going to happen is, I'll choose a different color. We're going to do this, and then there's going to be money going over to here to fund impact number two. Now, I'm not going to talk about deductibility and whether, that type of thing from a tax standpoint, but I just want us to understand this. Now, this is definitely possible. What we need to do is you're going to take some profits to allow you to fund this. Now, here's the thing, is that they're two different businesses. You got business one here and you got business two, or impact one, impact two. You're not going to be able to leverage the marketing, although I'll caveat it here in both ways. You're going to need to market differently because they're different audiences. However, I do believe that you can bring a mission purpose here. And I'll give you an example. I've got a client and a dear friend, Allison J. Prince. And what we did is we restructured her business in a way that for every sale that she makes in her business, it spins off to make a microloan to help women find financial independence through creating their own business by getting them sewing machines and that type of stuff. And we just did a launch. She just did a launch. I shouldn't say we just did it. She just did a launch where she had $105,000 approximately that from the launch was allocated towards the impact to line item. And what that meant was she literally gave 5,500 loans out to impact people. So you can, as a line item in your business, and put it out there that says, just like Tom's Shoes, that you're everything that you're doing here, there's a portion of those proceeds that are going to go over here to do this. And so people will get behind you, not only for the emotionally compelling vision, but the secondary impact that you're trying to have. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I have a charitable foundation that deals with abuse and violence against women and children. It's separate and apart from my business, but it will get funded via that vehicle. So hopefully that helps and that makes sense. Cool. All right. If you have questions, do me a favor, pop them in. Let me know. If you're watching on the replay, pop those questions and I'll try to get back to them on another live. So any questions, anything else going on other than that? Cool. So just a reminder, I'm going to be doing a workshop next Thursday, March 11th. Amber, that was you. All right, cool. Thanks, Amber. So next Thursday, March 11th, 9 o'clock California time. All right, 9 a.m. I'm going to be doing a workshop. We're going to talk. It's talked about the 5 wealth principles for today's entrepreneurs. Go to melabraham.com/workshop. It's about 90 minutes. You know me. I mean, heck, we've been going 40 minutes here. I can talk, but I'm going to walk through some frameworks for you, give you some principles that can build your wealth, talk about what your next steps could be. But it's really about what are today's affluent entrepreneurs doing to build true wealth and to give them lasting freedom. And I hope to see you there. I'll put the link. Some of the people have put the link in the comments. I'll put the link in the comments too. Let's make sure that we give you the ability to find that financial liberation, that affluence, and that independence that you're desiring, what you're looking for. We ain't repeating 2020. It's a whole new game. And that's my mission now. So let's make it rock and roll. And so thanks for joining me here. If anything comes up, do me a favor, post, let me know, say, hey, send me a DM on Instagram, on wherever, let me know. If you want to, let's see, I think, if you want to catch me on Instagram, it's melabraham9 on there. And just send me a DM, send me a post, do something, and let's keep you moving forward. All right. Blessings to you all. You have an incredible, incredible Monday, beginning of the week. Okay. Rock and crush this week out. Let's go make a difference in people's lives. Let's make a difference in your life. This is another step in your financial liberation and affluence journey. All right. Let's talk soon. Cheers. See ya.